Yes.
Okay.
Hey folks, welcome to Shift Office Hours. It's another chilly but bright day in Pittsburgh, and I'm not sure what it's like where you are, but we are here to think of bright ideas and share them with you in a not chilly way, I think.
Absolutely.
So I'm Cynthia. I'm one of the partners at Shift, and with me is Sarah Mayer.
Hi, everyone.
So each week we come here to Shift Office Hours and share ideas about marketing. We talk about some of the latest advertising and other kind of communications campaigns that we think are interesting, and cover some news and topics and other things that would be of use to people who do things in a marketing kind of a way or a small business way. All the news that we think is interesting and fun for you. And today we've got some topics in security. Specifically, sort of, right now it's kind of hot thanks to just the challenges, I guess, of being online so very much. And we've got some ideas about chatbots. But in addition, we've got a little bit of news. So let's dive in. Sarah, you, I think, had seen some things in the news that you thought were highlighted.
Yes, and we have a lot of news this week, so I'm excited about all the things we have to talk to. But before we get into that, perhaps we should remind the folks that if they have questions, they are welcome to submit those via the YouTube chat or via email, if you prefer, to officehours@shiftcollaborative.com. We might not get to, if you submit an email, we might not get to it in this episode, but we will certainly circle back and get to it at some point soon in the near future. So we hope to hear from you because while we have prepared a bunch of stuff to chit chat about, this is really your hour to share your questions that you have with us. So please do so.
Exactly. So that's great. And we love your questions.
Yes. So sorry. Now on to news.
Okay. CBS has a brand new brand.
They do have a brand new brand. Well, is it a brand new brand? They're refreshing some things. They're, kind of making their brand a little bit more consistent across all of their properties. They're unifying it with one brand, font and size, whereas they've had some different variations kind of going in the past. And so, that's a great screenshot to share. So this is sort of highlighting, on the left, what currently exists and what on the right is going to now be the rule of thumb for them. So, so it's interesting. This is a brand that we as Americans are very used to seeing and perhaps interacting with on a regular basis. So when they do something like this, it's a kind of something that everybody sees, not just people that are in marketing and branding. You might notice this as just a regular old watcher of CBS. So that's interesting. I think the article that accompanies this, or maybe I read it somewhere else, they're also updating their jingle, or they're bringing back a jingle, or I might be sort of misconstruing the situation. They're either bringing back a jingle or debuting a jingle.
They are resurrecting a jingle.
Okay, got it. Yes,
they're resurrecting This is CBS, which I remember from childhood as being something that men with deep voices would say, sort of a Walter Cronkite kind of thing. Yeah. The brand itself is apparently from 1951. This symbol here with that's an eyeball sort of a thing apparently was inspired by the Pennsylvania Dutch, if you can imagine, just these sort of very iconic and streamlined images. So that part of it they have wisely kept.
Yes.
And it seems like they're just moving toward a simpler and more consistent logo situation for across their different brands, which seems smart.
Yeah, I think we're seeing this just as a trend in general with brands that perhaps have a number of sub-brands or different properties that they market. They want to unify them, make them more consistent, simplify their brand perhaps from a visual standpoint. Not to say that the work to do it is simple, because that's not easy. You might look at this and say, oh, well, that probably took them like an hour to come up with that. But it's really a lot more in depth than one might think.
Absolutely. So seems like a pretty big project to do that sort of a thing, to do it in a unified way. I'm sure they've been working on it for some time,
Yeah.
but I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I agree. Although I do like that CBS Sports in a box. I don't know why. Something about that one I like. The other ones
It feels very held together. Well, it's now I am not a font guru, but this is different from this older font is, I think, different from this one, but it shares a lot of characteristics to it. It maybe is a little bit less, I'm going to say, squat than this one is. It's a little bit taller, and X height or whatever seems a little bit higher on the characters, but it shares that sort of uniform line width throughout, and just sort of a general geometric kind of a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like the box too.
Yeah, I don't know, like something about it just speaks to me. And I don't know, maybe sports just belong inside of a box in my mind. I don't know. I have no idea.
I play a lot of tennis, so you've got
your I like lines. I like lines. Yeah. So what else do we have? I think the next thing on the docket that we wanted to talk a little bit about was Peloton. So we are firmly in the start of the fourth quarter. And for many brands, this is the quarter in which they spend the majority of their advertising money if they have a product, and trying to get folks to, spend their holiday budget on their products for gifts. So Peloton last year was one of the big gifts of the year, that everybody got a Peloton, it seemed like, last year.
And just in time too, for gyms to close and people to need to work out at home.
That's
Seems
right.
like they were ahead of the curve.
Yeah, well, yeah, and there's a lot of competitor bikes now that are kind of taking up that trend. I've been doing the research on the bikes because I have a knee injury, and biking is the one thing that I can do without too much pain. So I've definitely been researching Peloton and its competitors. But I think the reason that we wanted to bring this ad to light, or this campaign to light, is it is pretty different, starkly different from their approach last fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. I don't know that we have that ad to pull up, but we can remember perhaps what happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, so Peloton traditionally, all of their marketing has been really seemed like it was aimed at some kind of a high-end kind of a user. Like all the pictures of their product is like this stationary bike, like in a large room.
Beautiful setting, modern home on the edge of a cliff, overlooking California or something, some California city. Yeah, very, like you say, very high-end approach, really targeting, wives. The Peloton wives. That's like a trending thing,
right? And it's like, I mean, number one, who has this much space? Number two, who wants their exercise bike to be that front and center in their home?
Peloton wives. That's who wants it.
My audio has gone nutty.
Yeah.
Everything is crazy. Oh my God.
Technology.
I'm going to mute myself and let you talk a little bit while I turn on my audio.
Sure. So one of the controversial pieces of their specific campaign last year was that it featured a husband gifting his wife a bike for Christmas. And there was just a vibe about it that kind of made it seem like he was getting this bike because she needed to lose weight or she needed to be more fit. And of course, this actress is a very fit person who looks like she's already got a Peloton bike or works out quite frequently. And so it was just like it's just a tone and a vibe that caught people the wrong way. So they got some negative flack for it. And then Ryan Reynolds famously brought this Peloton wife into an aviation gin commercial in which she's sitting around a bar with her friends, drowning her sorrows because this is the gift that her husband has got her, and she's really trying to, contextualize why he might have gotten her this gift. So
exactly, yeah. I mean, both the first ad was again, it was a little bit like, are you kidding me? By the way, as we talked about last week, there is just no way to get past any of
the ads, yeah,
the political ads right now. So while we watch this ad get out of our way. So this ad here, the one for the Peloton bike, woman is fortunately she's got the kind of home that you're allowed to have a Peloton bike in. So
yes,
lucky for her. Then here she is getting in even better shape, I guess for Valentine's Day or something with her lovely husband. So
yes. So it just like I said, it struck a chord with some people and not in a positive way. And I think people that got the Peloton bike last Christmas are certainly happy they got the Peloton bike. I don't know that this ad sort of soured it,
made
for
it
them.
much difference.
Yeah. I don't think it impacted their sales too bad, but they just got some negative flack for it, which I think then made them really think about this fourth quarter and what they were going to produce that would be different and hopefully not get them so much negative attention. So this year, as you're showing on the screen, they're featuring real actual Peloton riders and people that have it. And, they're coming into their lives and their home and showing you that it's not just the, architecturally modern house with huge rooms that with, people having these bikes. So it's just kind of giving you a different view of it. And it's called Reasons. The campaign is called Reasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's they're really not in these sort of stock photography homes. They're in real homes with real dishes and real sinks.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of kids here,
mm-hmm.
and it kind of, when you think about it, it makes sense that COVID and pandemic and lockdowns aside, people who have families and have other kinds of commitments can really make use of a thing like an at-home gym or exercise bike. So it makes sense for them to go after this audience if they're trying to expand their market or even just just market sensibly. So it's just such a huge shift for them. It seems pretty notable.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, we thought that's noteworthy to bring to office hours today. We like to look at ads and campaigns.
How would you, as you think about like a big switch like that, like what kind of a project would a company have to undertake to make that, do you think, for a big consumer brand like this?
I don't think it's as much of a lift for a huge brand. I mean, certainly it's a lot of inward looking. And so sometimes it's hard to get that perspective if you're inside of the brand and you're the in-house brand team, but they most likely have an external vendor that they work for that helps them think through things. So my guess is that, they collaborated and kind of looked at last quarter's ad and said, we've got to make a pivot, not only because it didn't work, but also that the fourth quarter of 2020 looks extremely different than 2019's fourth quarter. And so we need to be a little bit more relevant and sensitive to where people are. So I would imagine it started with a lot of just inward looking and saying, okay, why didn't that work? And do we want to go back to our normal playbook? The playbook we've been using since we launched, perhaps to market our product in this way, or do we want to change it? Is it time to change?
Right. Looking at so I'm thinking about sort of brand as a bigger thing than just a campaign. And so I'm wondering, is this really, obviously they did some soul searching to decide to come up with this new ad, but does that carry through to the rest of their branding? And so that page that we were looking at a minute ago was the landing page for that Reasons campaign.
Right.
I'm looking here at their homepage where we still have a certain amount of, your, for lack of a better word, skinny white lady, fancy home branding that they've had all along. But there were a couple pieces in here where we have this person who is from that other kind of campaign, as it's highlighted at least in this slideshow. And I guess my question is going to be, over time, are they going to integrate that more into the rest of their brand rather than just sort of this one campaign? So, there's certainly some blog posts around it in the launch of this campaign, but how is that going to it'll be interesting to watch, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, after the holidays and gift giving season for 2020. How is this going to be carried on, or are they going to go back to their older world?
Yeah, I mean, the question is, are they really listening to their users? Did they get enough brand feedback from their loyal fans to say this is the kind of campaign we want to see? And then does that campaign land so well in fourth quarter that makes them shift the whole ship, like you're saying, having it filter through? So perhaps it's just they're testing it out and seeing is this landing for our current fan, brand of users, and will this generate more sales than last year? And if so, perhaps they do start to integrate it a little bit more, but who knows? It's hard to say.
But fun to watch.
It is. It's fun to watch. So I have this song stuck in my head.
Okay.
All morning. And it's related to our next topic, which is I grew up with a mom who loved Fleetwood Mac, so I listened to a lot of songs and music around that era that coincides with Fleetwood Mac. But I really love Fleetwood Mac, and they just randomly their song Dreams happened to land in a viral video this last week, maybe the beginning of this week, over the weekend. I don't know.
I think it might have been last week. It feels like it took me a while to catch on to it and to watch it over on, I guess it was on Instagram. So I don't think I clicked it right away. So it may have been a little while ago that it actually hit the world. But so it's this video. I know you're closing the player. It's fine, whatever thing you have. But so this gentleman right here, who is Dogface 208.
Yeah, he's a man on a skateboard drinking an entire container of cranberry juice from Ocean Spray. And the song, which I couldn't hear it, but the song that is Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. And so this video became viral and spurred a couple of different things to happen over the course of this week. And so one of them being that Fleetwood Mac, or Mick Fleetwood, he did his own version of it. He did his own very own version of it, which is delightful, I will say.
Right. So this is Mick Fleetwood right here. Fleetwood Mac, 70s band, well known for songs like Dreams and
many others.
Don't Stop, and a bunch of others that somehow feature in a lot of presidential campaigns.
Yes. Well, yeah, Don't Stop Believin' was Bill Clinton's campaign.
I think Don't Stop Believin', though, is another band.
That's Journey, but the song is, anyway, Don't Stop is
anyway.
So
Anyway, there's a bunch of them, and the one that Bill Clinton used was one of them. There's so many. Soundtrack of My Youth. So he himself, as you say, founder of Fleetwood Mac, Mick Fleetwood, did his own version. I'm going to see if I can catch that in here. So he too has a little bit of Ocean Spray, and here he is.
I love it.
And then Ocean Spray itself, of course, got in on the act. And it turns out that the gentleman here who started the whole thing, the reason he's on his skateboard here is that he is, I think, a potato delivery person.
And he's in Idaho. He's in Idaho, so that potato thing becomes a little bit more relevant.
Right. And so he, here it says right here, potato warehouse worker, was his vehicle broke down apparently while he was doing something on the highway, and so he has a skateboard and he had a thing of Ocean Spray, and he was thirsty. So he put all those things together with a smartphone and posted on Instagram himself, going off to get some repairs for his truck. So I think it was really smart. The Ocean Spray, the way they responded to this was to give this gentleman a new pickup truck, fill it with Ocean Spray, and sort of build on that the wave of attention that they were getting.
Good one.
I apologize for that. So smart move. You never know exactly what is going to hit and what's going to be popular. There's really not a way to, I don't think. I mean, maybe somebody knows how to, make a viral thing be viral. But
Before it's
as
viral,
best I can tell, it's luck and chance and just the right moment. So
yeah, it's an organic thing. Perhaps it takes just like the right kinds of people initially watching it, because then they share it, or they, somebody that has a lot of followers, maybe he has a follower that has a lot of followers. I don't know, but I think you're right that it's just really hard to plan to have a viral video. It just sort of happens organically. And once you see one, though, what, you're like, oh, that's like a video I would have never sought out. But now that I've seen it, I love it.
Right.
I didn't know I would love something like this, or needed it. But now that I've seen it, I know that I love it.
Thing you didn't know you needed today. But so I think that the thing for us to talk about that one can do is decide how you're going to react when you see someone using your brand, your logo, your product in a way that you weren't really expecting. I mean, obviously, if the attention seems positive, then it's not as hard to decide, yes, we're gonna build on this, we're gonna reach out to that person and see if they want to interact in some way. It's harder to know if they're doing something that you weren't expecting. And so I can remember back when there was a point where Timberland boots, thought that they were boots for mostly like outdoor use, but people were wearing them in inner cities. And so how is Timberland going to kind of capitalize on that? And the way they did was to realize that they had an untapped market and to start to make products that were more directly going to appeal to that market, which included making pink Timberland boots and other things along those lines, and realizing they needed to advertise to different places and hopefully not, kill the golden goose along the way.
Well, I think what's interesting about this particular one with the ocean spray is that it has two brands in a way. You've got the, musical group Fleetwood Mac and the brand Ocean Spray, and they both responded. And so that's kind of cool to see both getting in there. You may not always get that kind of interaction between these two brands, and I think that also the Ocean Spray CEO did just like Mick Fleetwood did one, so did the Ocean Spray CEO, is what I thought I read somewhere. So I haven't seen that one, but I don't know if he did anything particularly differently than the rest of them. But it's fun and it's interesting, and people are kind of eating it up right now.
Yeah, or drinking it down. And we got to learn that Mick Fleetwood knows how to ride a skateboard. So.
Well, was he on an actual skateboard? Do we know for sure?
I'm not sure how he was moving along. It just seemed that way. So.
Perhaps.
Yeah. So cool. So cool brand situation there. A little bit weirder one, or interesting, as far as brands trying to do something different or take a different tack. Locally, we have a healthcare network called Highmark. And traditionally, all of their ads, and I think I've got this page here of their channel as a whole, not the most lively brand, but very much a sort of straightforward healthcare brand as far as their video goes. Anyway.
What you would expect. They had a whole series of videos with real patients sitting on the green couch, and I think it was green, part of their brand, or maybe that's the Allegheny Health Network, which is attached to Highmark. But yeah, the point is that, what you would expect from a pretty, this is an insurance organization. So the stuff is pretty straightforward, formal.
Until recently. So they've recently launched this series of ads. We've seen 3 so far. As you can see, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago here, these are the ads right here. This Do It Right, that is focused on a, healthcare thing. Again, these are all playing super loud in my ears, and I don't have a way to. I'll just have to hope that you guys will click the links and share. But fortunately, they don't have a lot of audio to them. There's just this man washing his hands, for example, right now.
Yes. Yeah, so the sort of objective here in these ads is to sort of raise visibility to some of the things that we need to be doing right now in the pandemic. In this case, washing your hands for a long, at least 20 to 30 seconds, whatever the prescribed time is. And so that's this video, and I think they've introduced the cat to be kind of the voice of reason, if you will, to, well, wait now, sir, I don't think you washed your hands long enough. And then he goes back and washes his hands a little bit longer. And then the second commercial here, as you're seeing, is the cat is kind of reminding this lady that she should not be leaving her house without a mask.
As a cat owner, I can attest to the fact that cats can be very judgy. So I think they've chosen the right animal for this particular campaign. So that makes a lot of sense. This cat gets around though, because he's he's there, he's here, and then he gets outdoors too.
Yes. So
this was the one though that caused you some questions.
Well, it caused my husband to yell at me from the kitchen. You've got to get in here and interpret this ad for me because it's not making any sense. So just kind of back to the objective, they're really trying to use a little bit of cleverness and humor, I think, to get our attention, to make us pay attention to the good things that we should, the right things safety wise for our health that we should be doing in the pandemic. And the first two, I think, do that well. This third one starts to get a little bit more ambiguous as to what they want us to take away from it. And so my husband's questions were really around, at first he sees a man and the man's drinking his coffee, but the first thing my husband noticed was the way he was wearing his mask was not how we are trained to wear our mask. We're not supposed to wear our mask down here under our nose, or as my husband likes to call it, as a chin diaper. And he's for the majority of the commercial, he's not drinking the coffee. He's playing on his phone. And so it's just a little bit like, he was there first, he's drinking coffee. That's why his mask's not on. You can make some obvious assumptions as to what's happening here. And then the second person is introduced and she comes in wearing a mask, but she sits a little too close. And so the cat tells her she needs to move, to the appropriate 6 feet distance, which she does. And then she takes off her mask and starts eating. And then the cat gives another side eye, judgy look.
I guess the question is is a park bench 6 feet is maybe the thing we're not sure about here.
There's a lot of things that are left up to interpretation. And that to me makes it a miss when it comes to a public service type of campaign. Right. When you're doing, a fun campaign, selling a product, you're really trying to lead with the humor so that the viewer can remember your product. That's fine. But leading with humor or not being as being clever over clear in this kind of an issue, a serious critical health, public health issue, doesn't land for me.
Yeah. I think I'm guessing on this guy here, this gentleman, wearing his mask in the chin diaper fashion. Mm-hmm. I'm certain. First of all, I'm certain that for this level of commercial that this was talked to death. So my guess is that they could not figure out a way to show that this man has a mask handy without it, and get it somewhere else on the screen. And that's the only way I can interpret it. That they couldn't figure out how to make his mask be visible. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so this situation seems like, I wonder whether they maybe didn't have a couple more situations that they could have filmed instead of this one. It's a tricky one. They've set themselves a hard challenge. It's
tricky because the thing is that the pieces of information that have been blasted out by multiple organizations, credible organizations, are wear the mask when you're outside, when you're anywhere outside of your house, keep the physical distance of 6 feet. But what is not as soundbitey is if you are outside and don't have masks on, then you need to be more than 6 feet actually. And that's not a message that we're getting as Americans as readily. It's like we get the mask message all the time and how to wear the mask. And then we get the keep the 6 feet distance. There's lots of cartoons and posters and graphics that have been created around it. But that other piece is not as out there, I guess. And if it is, it's just, if they're trying to tackle that here, as you can see, it's challenging to communicate it.
Yeah. So kudos for trying to tackle it. I mean, you still have to, swing at the ball, I guess, but
yeah,
we just think that the other commercials were more successful. And this reminds me that I did want to try and get my cats to, wear a harness, and they just don't want to. So,
yeah, I mean, I think generally you don't see cats outside. I mean, sometimes you do, and perhaps there are many cats out there that love to be outside, but certainly outdoor cats, right? But you don't see them being walked with a leash very often.
Siamese breeds, by the way, though, which that one was, are more dog-like. So maybe he's just more suited to it. This trained cat.
Yes.
Okay. So that was, I think that's an interesting thing. And this is a good time to remind folks, if you've seen an interesting ad or marketing campaign, and are, think it's worthy of note, or have questions about why did they do it, that seems insane, we'd love to talk about that too. So send those things along to us. Either bring them in here to the show and put them in the comments, or send them to officehours@shiftcollaborative.com, and we'll talk about them in a upcoming show.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. What's next?
Oh yeah, so you found something new on a website too, it seems like.
Well, so over the weekend, my husband and I were, trying to figure out what thing we could watch together and both be slightly interested in. And it seems like we've been through all of the things in Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu that we're both together interested in. And he was like, my friend just said we should watch this Social Dilemma thing. And I said, well, what is it? He's like, I think it's like a documentary. And I'm like, I'm not like a huge fan of documentaries unless I have to watch it. And he's like, it's kind of a documentary. I was like, what's a kind of a documentary, first of all? Like what? And so Netflix has I guess, been releasing this sort of genre of documentary where there's the, fact-based things, and then they, in tandem, run a fictionalized characterization of what they're talking about to help break it down for people and help people understand it more, is my understanding of it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that's what this Social Dilemma is doing. And it's talking about, ethics and technology as sort of a topic, as it's not a new topic. It's ever since, any technology that we ever create, it causes conflicts and tensions, any new technology. And so it's talking about that. It has all of these folks from various social media giants, and also, Google as well. And so they've got, former, heads of monetization from Pinterest, and, all these, extremely credible folks who have a lot of information and experience in technology coming on and talking about the problem of all of the social media and all of the connectedness to our email and to the internet, and what that's doing to us and what it's doing to our children. So that's like the subject of the documentary. Certainly they take some swipes at huge players like Facebook and Google and Apple.
And not undeserved swipes, I would say personally, but I'm guessing that right. Well, I'm guessing that the people that are that are the subject of those discussions not as happy about them.
Right. Yeah. So Facebook in particular normally doesn't come out and sort of put out official responses around things like this. They just they let the movie go or let the document. They don't really comment or remark on them, but in this case they did. And they kind of made a list of here's all the things that missed the mark in this film. What they get wrong essentially, and they kind of go through each of those things from their perspective, obviously. So it's, it's just getting their side of the story out there, which, like I said, they normally don't respond. So it's interesting.
Yeah, but they clearly took a lot of time to put this response together. I'm sure there's a combination here of discussion that happened among their legal team about what they would and wouldn't admit or agree to or talk about, as well as a marketing and sort of crisis management way of spinning or reacting and responding to the assertions in the documentary. And of course, the name, The Social Dilemma, seems like it seems sort of generally like social network in general, but it also is a reminder of the movie The Social Network, which was a fictionalized account of the creation of Facebook by Aaron Sorkin, I think, and I forget which studio, but from, gosh, how many years ago was that?
It's been a while. I don't know. It's definitely been a while.
Yeah, good movie, or an enjoyable movie, but also a frustrating movie. But now I think looking back on that and the assertions that are kind of made in it, it does reflect very badly on Facebook and on Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg in particular. So
yeah.
Can understand them wanting to respond, and in many cases deciding, like you say, that they're not going to do that sort of their official policy, but here they're stepping out and really taking a swipe back. So.
So the production elf has told us it's about 11 years old, and it was by David Fincher.
Oh, David Fincher. Yes, this is the director. Very good. I think it is still, though, written by Aaron Sorkin, right? Production elf. We're lucky to have a research team.
Yes, we can go and find these things out for us to bring to you, our viewers, so you don't have to Google it. He says, I don't know, just like me.
Okay.
I what I noticed lately about Facebook is their own brand revisions, if you will. It's Facebook with all of their sub brands underneath them, and that more, instead of that like more blue, it's more like a creamy greenish blue that they're running with now, and just in that document that you pulled up.
That's true. Yeah, that was the color of this this thing that they posted is moving toward this sort of tealish or sea blue type of a shade.
Yeah.
And their branding here. And as we talked about, I think it was last week, they're sort of house of brands as opposed to brand house, thanks to all their acquisitions.
Yep. So Aaron Sorkin did the screenplay, just to clarify, and it's 10 years old.
Because there's a lot of walking and talking. It seemed very Sorkin-esque.
Yeah. Cool. So anyway, maybe you want to put The Social Dilemma on your list this weekend to watch if you haven't watched it. I'll admit I watched the first half and not the second half, but my husband watched the whole thing. So
did it cause you, for the half that you watched, cause you to change your behavior on any of the social networks or online?
I didn't get off of social media, but the one thing I definitely did is I checked all of my notifications, because one of the things in the sort of front of the film is, how these different apps, regardless of whether it's a social or your email or any app you have on your phone at all, anytime something happens, they ding, they send you a notification, and then that draws you in. And so they talk a lot in the first half of the film of the science behind that and all the data they're collecting on you to send you just the right notification to pull you back in and get you to get into that platform. And so I was like, ooh, yeah, I guess I see something pop up, like a news article or my son's school app. I see as grades get entered, I get pinged, and I'm always looking. And then I'm like, I don't need to look at this every 2 seconds. So I definitely went in and changed my notifications, but I didn't, there's a gentleman they have on that's like, you need to get off of all your social media right now, like get off of it. And I didn't do that. I mean, one, I have to have access to these things for work reasons. Certainly I don't need personal profiles, I suppose, but I'll still have to be on them. So I don't know. I wasn't ready to ditch them all from the film.
I have gotten down to like looking at Facebook maybe once every other day, which is a big change for me.
Mm.
But it's been really bringing me down, making me sad.
Facebook
So
is.
Facebook in particular. Um, I should say though, Twitter also makes me super, super sad. So I'm down to checking it just maybe twice a day. Unfortunately, one of those times is right before I go to bed, which makes for very stressful nights.
Yes.
So I need to maybe rethink that particular timing there.
Yeah. I look at Twitter in the morning. Not that that's any better, but I usually just, that's my morning routine. Instagram is my night routine.
Okay.
And Facebook, like you say, like I maybe, I don't know, personally like twice a week. And then I miss stuff that my friends like tag me. And I think I turned off the notifications for Facebook long ago. And when I get tagged in a thing, I don't get notified. So I don't, until I go in there, see. And so is that sad? I don't know. Is my friend no longer my friend because it took me 2 days to respond to their cute comment on a photo? I don't think so. So not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that they get enough other validation in the rest of their life that they aren't missing your particular note. So
Yeah, no. So anyhow, that's what's happening there.
okay.
The other thing I added in here, I slid in here without you noticing, is this. I read. I get 3 articles on Adweek for free.
Okay.
A month, a week, I don't know what it is. Anyway, and I was reading an article on my phone, and I noticed this little icon in the right hand corner.
This one right here?
The wheelchair icon, yes. And I was like, oh, what's that? And I clicked on it, and then I was given this menu of how I could customize my experience for just adjustments that I might want to make to make the site work better for me. So we have been, as a firm that does web design and development, talking and learning as much as we possibly can about, designing the web experience for all and making it a great experience for everybody. So I thought that this was interesting. Have you seen something like this before?
I have seen it, although it was from a different firm. And so I was just noticing here, Web Accessibility Solution by Accessibee, yep. Which is a different one I think there's probably a couple different players in this market, but it is a really interesting solution because, one of the challenges with accessibility, if you weren't considering that when you last had your website designed, adding accessibility is not necessarily the easiest thing to do. I mean, it really ought to be, part and parcel of your whole web design plan. Right. But if you find yourself in the situation of needing to have, wanting to put more effort and attention to it, this looks like a thing where, in particular, they're kind of pushing this effortless piece of it. Add a script code to your site, and then it is going to do these things for you. So, for example, it's going to all you've done is add this one little piece of code, and then this is going to come in and apparently just go ahead and apply a bunch of scripts and things to the way the site operates. So, I think it would be interesting to hear from someone who is used to using a lot more of these tools to see what it really does. As far as, for example, this one here, highlight titles. What does that do for us? Highlight links and so on. Like, what is it? So the links now you can see they've got. Shrink this down. The links now are all circled with something. So if it was hard for you to know what can I click here, what can't I click here, that will have helped a little bit anyway.
Yeah. I like that actually. Sometimes it's not obvious what's clickable.
Right. Text magnifier and adjusting your font sizing and so on. So. Those I've seen in a couple different places, and there's often different other solutions that do maybe just one or another of these things, but having this all be covered all at once is interesting.
Yeah, I wonder, like you say, how well it works for people that are commonly wanting some of these things to improve their web experience. How do they view it? And I guess the other thing I'd be wondering too is, does a plugin tool like that have any impact on page speed, or, you know, if it's layering in on top of other things, does it slow things down at all?
Mhm.
Maybe not.
Yep. It would be good to do some experimenting and testing, but it is interesting to see these things. Oh my goodness, look at how it jumped. So you're about to, so this must be the text magnifier. As you go to click on a link, it's making sure to shout at you a little bit here.
Yeah, so you can see
feels
it
like
better.
shouting to someone like me who wasn't having trouble using the site before. Someone who was having trouble kind of contextualizing or figuring out what the site was about now is maybe able to experience and use it in a way that they couldn't. So
Right.
important to kind of look at things from these other perspectives. So anyway, so this is one service, this Accessibility, like we said. It's got WCAG 2.1, which is a standard web accessibility standard, as well as ADA compliance. So interesting to take a look at that. And if you've had some experience, viewer, with this kind of a service or one of their competitors or others like them, then we'd love to hear more about that. This is interesting. They've got their chatbot here covering up their
we should talk about this. Is a nice segue into chatbots.
Right.
If we want to jump to that.
Let's start talking about chatbots, because we've got one right here. This is a chatbot.
Yeah, so we were going to talk a little bit about what is a chatbot and sort of the actual academic definition, if you will, because I think we can guess based on what you just clicked on what a chatbot is.
Well, so the chat part of it makes sense. And also you can see from just this interface, it's going to be some sort of like a texting, chatting, online chat way of conversing with someone. But the bot part of it is maybe the part that's sort of interesting. So bot implies robot. And in this case, the question is there a person on the other side of this connection who is responding to me and has sent me that message? Seems unlikely. That someone's just sitting there. So probably there's an automated thing that starts the conversation, and then at some point, and is going to maybe interact with me a little bit. If we could come up with a question, I would type it in here. And then maybe at some point they would hand me over to a real, salesperson in this case, or somebody else. They have 14 plus people, by the way.
I have a question. Well, one of the production elves has a question you could type in there, which is, does their accessibility tool apply to chatbots? Does the interface work, or is it just for the main web component? Does that make sense?
I think it's a great question. Thank you, production booth elf. Off we've sent that. What is my email address? So again, here's the body part of this.
Yeah, this is clearly, they've loaded in some questions common questions people ask, and their auto responses to them. And, like you say, it's kind of like a text-based look to it. So they are trying to simulate, how we are used to communicating digitally with people. So
and I have to do it in that little box. I mistyped my email. Are you sure I did?
Maybe they don't want info or generic email things. And now your email address is on YouTube for everyone to see, but that's okay.
That's all right. They would have figured it out anyway.
Yeah,
they should reply in a few minutes. So this is not a very rewarding chatting experience. Like if I did have a question a minute ago, all that's happened is they're going to now email this to me, and separately off screen, let me see if I can trace down what they're going to say in the meantime. But so this kind of opens up a couple of the things that we've been thinking about with regards to chatbot, which is how human can they feel? How much are they really answering and serving the questions and concerns of anyone who interacts with them? And how much can they be helpful versus off-putting? In this case, my feeling, off-putting. First of all, it told me my email address was wrong, which it wasn't. It was a perfectly good email address. So, But second, this experience of, thinking I'm going to get an instant reply, having set the expectation I'm going to get an instant reply, and then be told that they're going to reply in a few moments, and maybe not even here, but maybe on email. Like all of that was terribly confusing. So
Yes.
not super great.
Yeah. So I would say that would be an example of perhaps a chatbot fail.
Mm-hmm.
I guess back to kind of, if you're first opening a chatbot, if you're trying to wonder if there's a human on the other end of it, or if there's a robot on the other end of it, one telltale sign for me, and I don't know if this is a real thing or not, but the amount of time it takes for them to respond to my question initially. A lot of times when I'll put a question in, if it's a help desk type of question where something's not working and I need some troubleshooting, you put that question in, immediately get the wait time, and then you get an operator assigned, and the time it takes to get your chat started is, if it's immediate and it happens immediately and they immediately have something on the screen, that sort of signals to me that it's a robot at first. And maybe at some point, I think you mentioned, like at some point it could escalate to a human in your experience. But when it's so immediate like that, it's like, well, this is a robot.
Right. I mean, there's expectations that we have that are just from our past experience on the web. And then there's the expectation that the tool itself is setting. And so if it's saying, hey, we're here to talk to you, and then they're not there to talk to you, like that just I mean, even if you're not mad, really, really angry about it, it can at least, plant a seed of some frustration that you might feel.
Yeah. Yeah. An area where I think they can work, or I've experienced them working. So when you call an airline, I think when you have to call an airline, you're sort of, mentally preparing yourself for a bad experience, for a long wait time, and perhaps, not getting a resolution to your liking, a refund for your ticket that you have to cancel, for example. And so you're already kind of going into it a little bit mad or frustrated. And it used to be there was no chat, there was no automation at all, and your wait time was really, really long. But now, because they've before you get to a human, there's a couple of robotic responses, and they're asking, you can either speak your answers or you can type your answers in, and they help get you to the right sort of channel. They have a huge customer service infrastructure, and there's certain people that deal with certain things, and so it's being used to funnel you just to the right person. And so that I would rather take part of that menu and decision tree making than sit and wait on hold and listen to crappy music, before I get to a human.
So I've thrown this up here, American Airlines, who are giving us a couple of different things. So there's a lot going on this page, by the way. Yeah. Clearly they're trying to get me to book a trip, but then they also are thinking, hey, maybe you should log in first. This is very busy. Makes me just anxious looking at it. Mm-hmm. I also don't like to fly, so let's just keep that in mind as well. They're highlighting for me in case so that I don't miss it, even though this is the one they put forward. They felt like they needed to show me this. If I have travel credits, I should check them here. If this is that important, why isn't that the first one? I mean, that's frustrating to me. And then
can I pause you for 1 second? Right now, that's like a really big thing, because a lot of people are having, so like you're having to, you maybe canceled a trip in April because of COVID, and maybe now you're feeling like you want to reschedule it or something. And so you do have to go in there and find your credit. Now, to your point, maybe it should be the first thing, but I don't know that the credit ever trumps that first booking is, gotcha. I don't know, it's a guess.
Right. So they're trying to have their cake and eat it, both. And then over here, there's feedback, which is apparently, so this opened up another window. This is an online survey asking, give us feedback as a company, which is just a small annoyance. But so as far as now, if I actually want help, they're saying, hey, we will chat with you, but for that to happen, you have to put an app on your phone. That's very unfriendly.
Yeah, just pass.
Yes, hard pass.
I happen to have the app already, so I guess they're those people might not care, but
Right.
still I have to jump into I'm on a perhaps on a desktop, and now I have to jump into my mobile.
I have to go and find my phone, which maybe needs to be charged. And so, so here, I mean, we started out talking about chatbots, and even when you're thinking that you do want to chat or somehow interact, to then throw people to a whole different device and make them install software, you're like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not great.
Yeah, but so
American Airlines, come and talk to us, by the way. Then they have these things. Link opens in a new window. Site may not meet accessibility guidelines.
Hey, at least they're being honest.
I guess that's true.
Transparency. We've not gotten our site up to snuff.
Let me tell you about this company that I just found. Accessibility. One line of code is going to make your site all better.
Yeah. So back to, I guess, maybe, there's the actual just kind of function of these chatbots, which I think a lot of large companies with, they're trying to solve a problem for the end user, get them, help quicker. I think, let's get folks connected and get some answers to them faster than we humans can do. So we're going to put a robot in place to do that. So like the objective and the idea behind it is good, but execution can sometimes, as we're showing, vary and be not great.
Right. So I think that it's not, again, a chatbot is not something that you should just throw on there, just like any other tool that you add into your mix. It's going to end up being part of your brand. And so it's going to be worthwhile for you to think through what's the experience of it going to be, maybe to audit it now and again, have someone who's not invested in the, providing of whatever the chat solution is, have them try it out and give you feedback. And to really think about, is this the experience we're trying to represent for our customers or prospects? Are we making them feel the way we think that we're trying to make them feel?
Yeah, absolutely. What else? What else do we talk about with respect to chatbots?
Well, the time when they're, I think, most frustrating is when you have gone through and done all the things that they wanted you to do, the company wanted you to do. You've looked in support. You've tried to, like an FAQ, maybe you Googled to try to find an answer and you didn't. And so you finally are like, okay,
last resort.
I will interact with your chatbot. And then it then sends you back to those same things that you already tried. And so really thinking about, what has someone done before they jumped on this line, and giving them, ways to reach a real human faster, the dial 0 for an operator, is probably going to be important for someone who is, experiencing some frustration.
Yeah.
What I tend to do these days is go to Twitter and find the company's account there and use that as a form of chatbot, because that does tend to have a person on the other end.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of really big companies have used Twitter in particular, or a social media channel, to respond to customer feedback and questions and complaints.
Right. And so the fact that people will go there, partly it's because you think, hey, if I'm going to publicly broadcast this, they can't ignore me.
Right.
It's sort of the equivalent of standing outside of the company headquarters and shouting on a busy street and figuring, hey, no, someone's going to have to pay attention to me now. So it feels a little, there's a piece of it where I feel bad, but on the other hand, if I'm being this ignored, you forced me to it.
Right. I had no other choice. This is where I'm at. I mean, I guess sometimes people, that's their first stop, not their last resort. And,
right.
But it doesn't really matter. I mean, I think that as brands, we have to, big consumer brands or small consumer brands, any product, if you have a product out there, an app or an actual physical product, whatever it is, people are going to have trouble with it now and again. Even if you put a ton of time and energy into user experience, there's still going to be people that have questions or can't find something, or, you just need to provide them a nice pathway to get that help quickly. So.
Sure. And that's our advice.
We're sticking to it.
Yeah. And we don't have a chatbot per se, but we do have a little pop-up on our site, which leads to our help desk, which is manned during business hours. And then also we have some fallbacks. So That seems like the right level for our kind of company, but I'd be interested to hear what other companies are trying and what's been working for them.
Yeah, and I think we've with our clients, not just with ourselves, sort of talked through a couple of different strategies, and we've worked with clients that have chatbot, have a chat feature on their website, and I think to your point, where with with one of the clients, we're going to be doing an auditing just to see, is it working? Could it be working better? And just kind of taking a look at it. So I think it's always good you can't just set it and forget it.
Right.
Like anything.
And that's a nice thing to kind of end on, I think, for this week. Don't set it and forget it. Pay attention to it, but make sure you also leave time for things like weekends, like the one we've got coming up here.
Yes. And I have not checked the forecast, but I'm like hopeful that it's going to be more days like it is today, because I want to get outside, and hopefully that happens.
And stay 6 feet away from people when you're not wearing your mask.
I will.
More than 6 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thanks, folks, for checking in with Shift Office Hours. We're here every Friday from noon to 1, and we're happy to chat with you about marketing questions, advertising things, anything that you're seeing out there in the world and you want to share with us. Send it along, and we will see you next time.
Next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.